Your attention is in the front, class. No, I'm kidding. I am a teacher, so you can't. I'd like to introduce three folks from the Lehigh campus who will be talking about FlexNet learning. Something like that, yes. I'd like to introduce Carolina McCluskey, who is an assistant professor of computer science, Judy Mishriki, who is a reference librarian, and Dean Shaffer, and the instructional designer. Unfortunately, Eileen Grodziak was not able to join us. She is nursing a broken foot. Yeah, it's worse than that, but but I hear her recent doctor's appointment went well. Did it? Yeah. So she'll be back to work soon. So anything that goes wrong here, blame it on her. So why don't we get started? Why don't we get started? And I'll shut up.
Okay. So we don't have to introduce ourselves. We thought we were going to have total technical problems. I don't know how many of you have trouble with the wireless here in the hotel, but it's been driving me crazy. If we have time at the end of the session, we will take some questions. But if you have questions during the session, you have this little handout, which mine disappeared, but you have one with you. There's some at the ends of the table. And if you log in there now, you can go ahead and add your questions. If we don't have any live questions, we'll go through the questions that show up on the screen. So feel free to put your questions in there. And so here we go. When I talk about FlexLearning, I usually ask instructors, have you ever accommodated a student who wasn't able to attend your class? How many of you in here have done that in one way or another? All right. Okay. So they say yes. Okay. So then I say, and you can do this one here. How have you done it? And let me just see some hands here. What about recorded lectures? How many of you recorded lectures for your students? Okay, so few. All right. What about online discussions? Okay. All right. Good. How about Adobe Connect, Blackboard Collaborate, something? Okay. Good. Something else I hadn't thought about? Anything? Shout it out if you know something.
PowerPoint. Just PowerPoint.
Okay. Good. Good.
Recorded stuff.
Good. Good. What? Okay. Now, how many of you don't accommodate your students? They can't make it to class. That's your tough luck. Okay. So maybe in the back row, maybe. Right? Okay. All right. Good.
So what is FlexLearning? FlexLearning is the course delivery method that we introduced at Penn State Lehigh Valley just in January 2013 that provides students with flexibility in their approach to learning. With FlexLearning, students have the choice of taking the same class in the traditional face-to-face format, in completely online format, or a combination of both. So what really happens is for a given class, a student may choose to come to class on campus or participate online.
Okay, so what's the difference between hybrid and blended learning and flex learning? Well, with the hybrid and blended, everybody is in the same mode at the same time. You're either in class or you're online. And the instructor decides when is this hybrid going to happen. In the flex mode, the students have a choice. They can be in the class, or they can be online, or they can do both, or they can mix it up. It's up to them what works best for them.
As it turns out, our concept of flex learning is congruent to the seminal work of Dr. Brian Beatty from San Francisco State University, who developed and is successfully using the HyFlex course design method in their Instructional Technologies MA program.
And the field of knowledge on HyFlex is actually growing. Just to give you some examples, EDUCAUSE has published 7 things you should know about your HyFlex course model. Sloan C has offered workshops and presentations on HyFlex. They even call HiFlex an effective practice, so it's not just a bunch of hooey. University of Maryland has offered week-long workshops on HiFlex course design, and Tech Thought has this infographic on what you should know about HiFlex blended learning. Just to give you an idea of some schools that are using HiFlex, we've got Ohio State, San Francisco State, University of Texas, and Texas A&M. So you can see we're not alone in trying to accommodate students' preferences for how they want to attend class. According to Dr. Beatty, there are 4 fundamental principles of HiFlex design. The first one is learner choice. The student gets to choose how they want to participate in class, if they want to go to class, if they want to do it online, or if they want to mix it up. The second principle is equivalency of learning activities. No matter how you attend class or do this online, the instructor is responsible for providing equivalent learning activities. That's not the same learning activity, or it doesn't have to be, but some sort of equivalent opportunity for learning. The third principle makes use of learning objects. These objects and resources, as far as I'm concerned, should work as well in the classroom as online. That's going to save the instructor a lot of time. They don't have to develop separate learning modules for each mode, but that's the third one. The fourth one is accessibility of materials. And by accessibility, what they're talking about, and can we go back? Thanks. Okay. What they're talking about is that students have accessibility for the technology, the skills, and the resources. They have access to all of those, so that there's nobody at a deficit because of the materials.
The concept of flex learning at Penn State Lehigh Valley arose from the need to address the various learning and scheduling constraints of our diverse student population. As we looked for a solution, it became very clear that flexibility in learning had to be the focus, hence the term flex learning.
I was looking for a picture that kind of defined history, and the more I looked at that, the more I thought, yeah, that's how I'm going to look by the time we get this flex learning thing online. Anyway, the question, I guess, is why did Penn State Lehigh Valley decide that flex learning was something we wanted to do? Well, our identity and our branding is all about connecting with the students. It's the benefits of the small class, the personal contact with faculty, the sense of community that you get at a small campus. But with the push for online, we had to figure out, okay, how are we going to rebrand ourselves so that we can fit into what students want and what students need? So we decided that with the new technology and the new delivery methods, we can try and do that, but we don't want to lose the personal contact that you can get at a small campus.
In addition to the demands for online courses, we also need to provide educational opportunities for students who have scheduling demands that don't allow them to enroll in traditional daytime classes or programs. And this includes working students, students with families, and even students with access issues. Hopefully that's an extreme case, and it's far and few in between. Okay. Most of our traditional students tend to have adult learner lifestyles. Even if they're just out of high school, most of them have jobs or other life commitments that require them to mix their school with their busy life schedules. Flex learning courses allow us to meet the needs of these busy students.
Another area of concern, and I'm sure it's the same for all of you, is underprepared students. Many students will struggle with the online environment. They're not prepared to be self-motivated, self-guided learners, and so they need the support that a flex learning environment can give them. They do have the option to come to class. That gives them the opportunity for more engagement with the instructor and with the content. Another reason is the changing landscape of education. There's obviously increasing competition from other schools, from for-profits, from open universities and open courseware resources, and the information's available with a simple Google search. So what makes us stand out? Why would students want to come to our campus? Why would they want to take our online courses compared to someone else's?
The big difference is the ability to connect directly with our instructors. FlexLearning courses give students access to their instructors, giving them a personal learning experience. They also have the opportunity to experience campus life and interact with fellow students should they choose to come to campus.
So one of the questions is FlexLearning for every student? We initially had this set to, is FlexLearning for everyone, but then we found out that, according to instructors, no, that's not. But for students, we think that FlexLearning really is for every student. It meets the needs of all students. If they prefer face-to-face, they can get that. If they prefer online, they can get that. If they want to blend it, they can do that too. Some students may find that taking the online course is more difficult. They may find, they think they can do it initially, but as things go on, they say, you know, this isn't working out. Or the instructor may say to the student, you know, this isn't really working out. I think we should come to class. So if it's something that they can do, if they're in a position where they can come to class, they do have the opportunity to do that. Instructors, we actually ask instructors or encourage instructors to tell the students, if you can come to class, please come to class, because that's where the fun is, that's where the engagement is. But we know that not all students can get to the class, and this still gives them the opportunity to take the course.
Are all FlexLearning courses the same? Of course not. Just as traditional face-to-face courses are not all the same, neither are FlexLearning courses the same. Instructors have the freedom to organize and deliver their FlexLearning course the best way they see fit. FlexLearning courses must be available to students in both the traditional classroom format and online. But instructors decide what the equivalent learning components are and how the students will engage with the course materials, with the instructor, and with other students. So, if students can take a FlexLearning course online, why would they want to come to class at all? Many students prefer the social interaction, or they learn better in a structured classroom environment. Getting to know the instructor personally is also a significant benefit for many students. So in the FlexLearning mode, we encourage students to take advantage of the face-to-face experience whenever possible.
So will students be missing out on something if they don't attend class? We trust that the faculty member will make attending class a worthwhile experience and something that students will value. In this case, we found that students do continue to attend, so the attendance really remains high in those courses. For students who are unable to attend the class sessions, the instructor needs to provide the equivalent learning experience so that the students don't miss out on anything important. FlexLearning helps our campus in a lot of ways, actually. It helps to satisfy students who are looking for totally online courses. It allows us to fill historically undersubscribed courses. It helps students to resolve course scheduling conflicts, and it provides the flexibility when students need it. It gives more students the opportunity to take a course that they wouldn't have been able to take, and it allows them to share, it allows us actually to share the course with other campuses.
Does FlexLearning deprive the student of instructor contact? Absolutely not. Okay. Each instructor handles communication differently, and their communication procedures are noted in the course syllabus. With FlexLearning, students have the ability to communicate with the instructor in an electronic format, or they can come to the campus and talk directly with the instructor. Here are the FlexLearning courses we've offered: Bi-Sci, Computer Science, Economics, English, IST, Mathematics, Management, Marketing, MIS, Nutrition, Political Science, Security and Risk Analysis, and statistics.
We used posters around the campus just to give students an idea of what FlexLearning was and let them know what courses were available in FlexLearning format.
To date, here's a summary of what we've accomplished. 11 faculty members have participated. 21 FlexLearning courses were offered for a total of 32 sections, a total of 99 credits, an enrollment of 699, of which 503 are we have 503 individuals in that pool of 699. For fall 2014, we plan to add quite a few new FlexLearning courses.
So several pieces were put in place for faculty to help them transition, if you will, into this mode. We tried to encourage them and support them as best we could. One of the things we did do, though, for our FlexLearning faculty, we required them to take a course that we had created called OL 2200, drawn from the OL series of courses that World Campus has. But this was OL 2200, Preparing Your Course for FlexLearning Delivery. The difference between this and the OL 2000 and the ones that help with online delivery, this one actually helps instructors think about how am I going to create equivalent learning experiences for students in the class versus online.
Well, one unforeseen benefit of faculty taking OL 2200 is that some faculty who have chosen not to do FlexLearning course are now developing hybrid course. Okay? They say that the OL 2200 course has helped them greatly in organizing their course structure. It also helped them to make more clearly defined course outcomes.
Some of the tools that we used to assist faculty in their planning, we had a course review rubric and several course design checklists that many of them were borrowed from a lot of things that Annie does, and some of the other groups on other campuses have some really good, useful lists. Before the instructor got to deliver their course, they actually had to meet with the FlexLearning team. It's a group of 4 of us, and we just sit down and talk with the instructor and try and help them clarify what it is they're going to do, because a lot of times they'll come in and say, yeah, I think I'll do this for online, I'll do this. And they don't explain really well to the student, here's what I expect of you, here's, if you're online, what I expect. So meeting with them, we found, has been very helpful for them and for us. And we discussed the rubric that they've completed, we discussed their syllabus, and they also show us a 2-week plan of how their course is laid out.
In addition to training and verbal support, one final encouragement we offered to faculty interested in FlexLearning is...
You weren't supposed to say that. Weren't you at the presentation?
Okay, sorry. Is each instructor receive a nominal monetary incentive for developing and delivering their first FlexLearning course.
What we found interesting, when we first started, we thought we had a really good idea of what FlexLearning looked like, and we kind of had the menu all set up. But instructors actually came up with their own versions of FlexLearning. One instructor used Adobe Connect for lecture capture, and to facilitate interaction, he actually had one of the students volunteer to watch comments that came in, questions and comments, so that actually helped a lot.
In a writing class, the faculty member used students to lead a weekly online discussion on a particular topic and graded comments along with composition papers.
We had a political science faculty member that hosted student debates, either in class or online, and in her class, for some reason, most of the students decided to come to class, so there was only one that actually did the online.
A math and computer science instructor used a flipped classroom approach. He put all his instructional information online along with audio explanations. and use the class time to go over anything students might be having trouble with. And if there were no issues, then he gave them problems to solve.
We had an economics instructor who used an e-textbook that included online labs and assignments and exams. He used Khan Academy videos and an online discussion forum. The kicker for his class was that the students who didn't come to class were expected to write 3 hours worth of postings, the equivalent of 3 hours of being in class and interacting. And I'll let him tell you.
I have more people attending the course in person than online this semester. I think it's because I tell them the online component is equivalent, and they'd rather sit in class than post 3 hours worth of comments.
So I don't know if that's the design you want to use for your course.
We gathered feedback from faculty during a mid-semester meeting, a focus group discussion open to all, and through an online survey. At the first face-to-face meetings, faculty shared their own experiences, challenges, and insights, as well as ideas to help other faculty solve issues that arose. We all recognized that these courses were a first attempt at FlexLearning, and some plans may have to have been tweaked as the semester unfolded. Here are some excerpts of the focus group.
This semester, I'm teaching a beginning programming course for students going into information technology majors, and I do have a significant number of freshmen. I'm not finding that they are doing any worse than anybody else, and I had a great concern about teaching incoming freshmen in online or FlexLearning classes. So far, they are doing quite well.
There's no question that it requires more time on the faculty's part. I saw that even going from face-to-face and then to hybrid and now to FlexLearning. But I guess I don't mind because I'm able to communicate with my students more often now than I did when I used to conduct my class fully face-to-face. And to me, that's satisfactory because I'm getting to them more often and sooner before they even make mistakes so I can correct them. So I think even as a rule that they do get higher grades because of the feedback that I've been able to give them. And it's not just that they're getting higher grades, they're actually learning more and achieving more.
What I thought worked particularly well was systematizing everything. I had the class organized on a weekly basis, and I made sure that every week things were due at the same time.
I got really positive feedback pretty much from all of the students. One thing that they did say negatively was that, hey, I'm paying for this class. I feel like I should be in class and getting my money's worth. They did like the ability to come and go, just having that option. Yeah, and those who did take it exclusively online, there was some conflict. Either it was a work situation or they really just wouldn't have been able to take the class at this time. So I'm really glad that I was able to accommodate that.
I got the SRTEs from the summer class and they loved it. That first SRTE blew me away. Wow.
Students shared feedback with us too in focus group sessions and online surveys. To encourage participation, we offered pizza to the focus group participants and a chance to win one of 2 gift certificates to the bookstore for completing the online survey. Here are some of the students' comments.
I attended every FlexLearning class because I consider the classroom reinforcement and the material online, and if I could get additional help, then I'm going to take it.
Our teacher had more of like a virtual classroom where she would use a web conference program so that students could either go to class or follow along at the same time at home or even watch it later. And I'd say about half of the students would participate actively from home, where the rest would go to class.
So my professor had weekly announcements. Like you would go in there and you click on it, and it would tell you what was due for like the in-class students and what was due for the online students. So whether you chose to be in class or online, you were never really confused.
I would encourage anyone who hasn't taken a FlexLearning course to do so in order to better understand how to manage their time in an online course as opposed to a face-to-face course.
I know someone who was going to have to wait a year to go to University Park because of schedule problems, but because of FlexLearning, he was able to take 2 courses at the same time, and he was able to go to University Park.
I've retired from a career as a military leader, and I've already got a lot of experience. So if I'm taking a leadership class, I've done it already. I've taught the class myself. It really is kind of a waste of my time to sit down in a classroom to do it. But on the other hand, when there's a new idea or concept that's important for me to learn, it's nice for me to be in a classroom and listen to someone break it down.
So we compiled some survey data from the students and faculty. Here are some of the student results. We had a total of 96 responses, which for us is a lot. You can see that almost half of those who responded took a combination of online and face-to-face. Only 20% chose to do it totally online, while 35%, we'll find out, wait a minute, yep, 35% chose the traditional classroom environment.
Time management is always reported as a problem for students. It was interesting to see that the majority were satisfied with how they were able to manage their time during the course.
The fourth principle of high flex learning includes accessibility of technology, and this question was designed to kind of get a sense of whether technology impeded the students in their progress, and apparently it didn't. Overall, we were pleased with the results. Almost 60% of the students said they would enroll in another flex learning course in the future. What was surprising to us at the bottom there, the 17% said they would not enroll in a flex learning course. We're going to have to design some survey questions to figure that one out, because if the student wants to attend the whole class, they can do that. So we're still trying to figure that out. Another promising sign, and this one was important for us too, the majority of students said they would recommend flex learning to other students. So we thought that was really good.
Flex learning continues to be a work in progress. Definitely, flex learning takes more instructor time. One of our instructors provided this insight.
I would say I spent 50% more instructor time this semester. I understand that a part of that was because it was new, but it had more to do with the volume of student emails and the added assessments required to do a thorough job as far as assessing my online students. Between grading and answering emails and communication, it took a lot of time. So I definitely have to tweak and change and eliminate.
Many faculty members plan to tweak their courses after their first flex learning course. Assessments are still a concern for instructors. Any online assessment contains an inherent risk of cheating. Angel exams can be modified to help reduce the incidence of cheating. Some instructors have said that if students can't come to class for a test, they would have to arrange for a proctor. More instructors are beginning to use projects and written assignments as a way to assess learning.
And flex learning has had several positive outcomes for both students and the instructors. Faculty actually reported that they had significant more engagement with their students.
I actually taught a flex learning course. It was a programming course, and I found out that students who would normally be hesitant to participate in a class and discussion were actually more encouraged to, or on their own, they participated more in the online discussion forum. I think they have this false sense of security or anonymity. Moreover, I also required that they post regularly their programs regardless of the state the programs are in. And that allowed me to give them feedback. Whereas in class, if I ask them, are there any questions? They don't ask the questions. But because of that regular posting, I was able to give them regular feedback.
We've noticed that our faculty are definitely paying closer attention to learning outcomes, which I believe is a good thing. And they've also said that they've been able to organize their courses more effectively, addressing outcomes, assessments, and learning activities.
Here are some suggestions for instructors. Consider time management issues, both for yourself and the students. You really need to make sure your workload is manageable. and deadlines are reasonable and evenly spaced. Okay. Task lists, milestones, timelines are greatly appreciated by the students. They can look ahead, work ahead, and prepare. The more complete, the more detailed these task lists are, the better for them. Students really liked that instructors were quicker and more engaged in responding to questions and discussions. Don't overload students with email communications. Find a different way to communicate a lot of information. Post these informations in the course. Goals and outcomes communicated to the students help them focus on what is important. Students like summaries, key points, and takeaways. They appreciate knowing what they need to know.
The students actually know that they can attend class, and actually most of them do, if the class is a valuable learning experience for them. Students were actually pretty good at explaining which classes were worthwhile and which ones were a waste of time. So that was interesting to hear. Students like videos, they like the visual learning objects, so that's something else we hope to add more of. As far as lectures, you heard in the session before that it's a horrible way to record lectures and put them online, but actually they can be painful, but for FlexLearning courses, it's an option if you do lecture capture and make your lectures available for the students who can't be there. I think it makes sense in the FlexLearning environment.
FlexLearning in scheduling is appreciated. There are many reasons why students need the ability to flex their courses. A broken leg, a sick child, a business trip, car trouble, and the list is infinite. Although most instructors follow a schedule, they don't allow students to create their own schedule. Students do like the opportunity to work ahead. Students can choose to come to class just for new material, or they can do online when they already have a good grasp of the material.
And students really appreciated the opportunity to take courses that in the past they wouldn't have been able to take. The students even commented that instructors were more timely in responses and answering questions, and the instructors were more involved in online discussions, which we thought was an interesting take.
So where do we go from here? Our first year was a huge learning experience for everyone. We have learned that students want flex learning courses. We also learned that students can be successful in flex learning courses.
And they really appreciate the flexibility that flex learning provides, but there's no question that instructors are going to have to spend a lot more time preparing their classes.
Next year, the team will work with faculty to find ways to make flex learning more manageable. We'll look at and share techniques the successful instructors used in their flex learning courses.
So to wrap this up, we have another audience participation feature here. How many of you would like to try flex learning? Wow, that's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. How about, I'm curious, but I'll have to think about it and learn more about flex learning. Okay. All right. And how about the last one there? No way. Don't have anything to do with it. Well, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Thank you. All right. That wraps up our presentation. Yes.
Well, just another thought. The reason I keep raising my hand, I actually don't do it for classes, but I do it for meetings. I run a couple really big committees, and not everyone can always make it.
Sure.
And it seems to work. Those same principles
Sure.
work really well for that too, with all the same jotting down lessons learned. Those are good things to keep in mind.
Any other questions? We haven't
could?
made it available, but we certainly could.
Could.
Yeah, we certainly could. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the rub. That we thought about making that a flex class, and the most significant benefit in that class is when the instructors get together and share what they do, how they do it, and what they've learned. And that's really where the energy of the course comes from. And I'm struggling with how to get that to happen online.
Yeah, because there's a lot of spontaneous questions that arise during the face-to-face, which I think will not happen online.
And if we do something like Adobe Connect or web conferencing, it's going to have to be synchronous, because I think you lose the energy when you go to some sort of asynchronous discussion forum.
I was just more curious. I actually have to do Stats 200 as a hybrid class this summer for the first time. And I was wondering if I noticed that Lehigh did Stats 200 as a hybrid or FlexLearning. Is it possible that syllabi could, a copy of the syllabi for that course could be transmitted to me, or I could get a hold of that somehow?
I think what I can do is I can ask the instructor to touch base with you.
Okay, if I
And
give you
maybe
my
the two
email,
of you
I
can.
give you my email,
Yes.
maybe they can send it to
Yes,
my email.
please do.
That would absolutely, I'm doing it all with my nose right now. That would absolutely positively help me to just get an idea
Sure.
how it was run down there.
Give me your email and I'll ask him to contact you, and the two of you can discuss, and maybe
Maybe
you
I
can even
do
help
some
him.
stuff, because I have tutorials for calculators, graphical calculators that he or she could use if they're interested.
Sure.
Huh? Right next to me.
My touch base with viewers these things too, and just consider how do you schedule an appropriate sized classroom?
How do we schedule?
An appropriate sized classroom.
Yeah, that becomes a challenge, because you never know how many people
Right,
you're
you have
going to.
if you have 45 people in the class and 3 show up.
Yeah, which is why we really try and encourage our instructors to make it very worthwhile, impress upon the students. Class is where you're going to get this really high-touch, personal interaction, discussion, energy kind of stuff that you may not get online, and it's really worth your while to come to class. Some instructors are really, really good at getting that message across, and in those cases, the attendance has been really high. There's very low drop-off. The ones where the instructors, I don't care what you do, it doesn't matter, the attendance goes way down.
We have a number of questions that came in during the discussion, the presentation. Sue asked, isn't it a lot more work for faculty to prep for so many modalities?
The answer is yes. And we haven't figured out how to overcome that, but that's what we want to try and do this coming year. Okay, we know it's more work. How can we make this more manageable? Because scalability isn't really built into this, but can we scale it? Can we make it more manageable?
But I'd like to add, though, that if you prepare your course for fully online, it's a lot easier to go back.
Yeah.
Okay? So the thing for a faculty member really to do is to prepare your course for online, because online material can be used even in a face-to-face class.
Well, and I wonder how much efficiency might gain over time. Like it may
Yes.
be a lot more work the first time you do
yes.
it, but maybe subsequent times it's not so bad.
Yeah, and the
Like
beauty of
creating
this,
an online course.
yeah, what we found, the instructors that did it once already, we kind of in our minds said, boy, she's never going to do that again. She had such a difficult time. Every instructor said, you know, we're going to do it again, but we're going to change some stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to try and make it more manageable. And paperless grading is going to be built into her writing class and things like that. So we're excited to see some of the new technologies that they're implementing because of the demands for saving time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Nikki asked, what if no one comes to class?
So far, every class, someone has showed up. Maybe 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a class where no one showed up. If they don't, it'd be a great time to have office hours or something like that. I don't know what you would do if nobody showed up.
I think maybe just to add to that, if nobody shows up, at least the students know that the instructor will be on campus. So if you should decide not necessarily to come to class, but you can still elect to maybe to consult with the faculty. But the students know the faculty will be on campus during the class time.
Okay, and from Kate, what are some limitations of flex learning?
The biggest limitation I can see is the fact that instructors are not gung-ho about working harder. Other than that, it's all about flexibility and reducing the limitations and expanding the possibilities.
Okay, and do students all have to come to class to take exams?
That's one of the issues. Most instructors, we have a certain percentage of instructors that say, look, I don't trust the students to take an online exam. They have to come to class. And we try and ask them to rethink how they are assessing their students. Maybe there's a different way you could assess their outcomes, I don't know. But if they insist on somebody being present, we try and encourage them to allow proctoring, the same way World Campus on the high-stakes tests allows the student to get a proctor. But that becomes the responsibility of the student.
I'd like to add to that, to answer that question. In my classes, I can't even remember when the last time I gave an exam. I mean, it's fortunate that my course is a problem-based course. So the projects are my means of assessing. And in fact, because I'm trying to convince 3 of our physics professors to consider problem-based physics courses. And I said, I've run my class that way, and some students still manage to flunk my course. Okay, so, and in fact, I was just explaining to Dean that in my one course, I have the projects where they build on the previous one. And I tell the students that once I have identified the problem, if you correct that in the next project, and if your grade in the next project is higher, I'll cancel the lower one. And that serves as motivation for the students to really understand and do the project well. So I have not given an exam for I don't know how long.
Okay, and from Lisa, do you have data confirming the learning outcomes are the same in all 3 options?
We do not. We have not picked apart the courses enough to compare, you took this online, here's your outcomes. We have some basic high-level data to say, you know, they like this, they did well. We are in the process of pulling grades out because that's the only way we know whether they've met the outcomes or objectives of the course. So we're pulling the grades out of those courses, comparing them to the modes that the students used, and try and get some information about that, but we haven't completed that yet.
Because we're just in our 2nd semester, this spring semester. It's just the 2nd semester, so I mean, we're still analyzing the data from last semester. But maybe in connection to that question, we have found that some of the faculty members actually have had tremendous SRTE. I mean, that one comment, the faculty member said, Carl, I got 6.75 out of 7. Says, I never got an SRTE that high. And that was from a FlexLearning course. And we've had a couple of other faculty members having the same results. Yes?
That's an awful lot of courses that you already have ready. Were they already being offered in a hybrid or an online mode? Or
some were not.
And how did you recruit that many and get them through?
We just suckered a bunch of instructors. we promised them motivation. Yeah. We're baffled as to how that happened.
Yeah. I mean, especially considering there were some faculty members who were adamantly against it.
Yeah, and the attitude is softening on campus too. It's like, well, maybe so. Better than the no ways that we started with.
And there's really one more online. Melanie asks, how are instructors supported in the development of the FlexLearning courses?
We don't have the manpower to give a significant amount of support, so all we can do is consult with them, give them the tools, the rubrics, and say, you know, try and do this and try and do that. We'll help them with multimedia development, with video creation and things like that, but they just have to be willing to put the extra time in to create the learning modules that work both online and
This just in.
Oh.
What's the largest enrollment you've had in a FlexLearning course? 40.
40?
Yeah.
Okay, 40. So we are out of time, so thank you very much.